Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're exploring an issue that's, well, absolutely central to any nation's future: education. But what happens when that very backbone gets fractured by political forces? Our deep dive today reveals a system in Nepal that isn't just struggling, it's actively being undermined from within. We'll be pulling insights from a really critical source that lays bare the facts, trying to understand the profound impact of political interference on their education system.
It's a truly compelling and frankly critical situation because this entanglement, politics and education, it fundamentally undermines the very foundation of societal progress and individual potential too. For you listening, expect to uncover some specific examples, some surprising dynamics, and really the far-reaching consequences of this complex issue. Our mission here is to distill the most important insights from our sources, focusing on what you really need to grasp this crisis.
It's such a universal truth. Education is the bedrock of any prosperous society. It shapes everything, right? A nation's ability to govern itself, to innovate, to thrive. But then you look at Nepal, and the challenging reality, well, it hits you immediately. Our source describes their education sector as being in severe crisis.
And the core issue, as our source unequivocally highlights, isn't some vague general problem. It's specifically political interference and partisan divisions. What's truly concerning is the continuous active roles played by politically affiliated teachers, professors, employees, even student organizations. They're not just sort of passively present. They're actively shaping or maybe distorting the system.
That sounds like a deeply entrenched problem. Okay, let's unpack this a bit. How do these politically aligned groups actually exert influence, like day to day?
Well, our source makes it strikingly clear. These organizations, often operating directly under the banner of established political parties, they constantly interfere in decision-making within the educational institutions. And the motivation, it seems to be pure self-interest. This gravely affects the autonomy, the quality, and ultimately the credibility of these institutions. The observation is pretty undeniable. Their work is primarily for the personal gain of their respective political parties, not really for education itself.
So who are the key players then in this political battleground?
Yeah.
Our source details the main actors involved: organizations openly affiliated with the Nepali Congress, Maoist Center, and the UML. These groups are explicitly engaged in political activities right there within the universities and schools. It's not hidden.
No, not at all. It's striking how these organizations effectively transform educational institutions into what you can only really describe as political battlegrounds. And this leads to a significant lack of neutrality, professionalism within the academic bodies themselves. Instead of focusing on academics, you get party-specific advocacy, often completely sidelining any genuine academic agenda.
And the direct consequences are, well, frankly, chilling. We're seeing the development of ideological conflict, deeply uncooperative attitudes among teachers, professors, employees, students. This directly impacts educational quality, signaling that this whole situation is rapidly becoming a burning challenge. Our source then reveals a particularly bitter reality from recent independent student union elections, as the SWABU elections across various universities. They just didn't function as academic environments at all. They became arenas for, well, raw political power display. This isn't just theory, right? We have specifics.
Right. Oh, absolutely. The depth of political involvement here is quite revealing. Our source provides concrete examples. Major political parties, their leaders, affiliated professors, students, employees, from central down to local levels, were clearly mobilizing their networks and resources. These elections were treated almost with the prestige of general parliamentary elections. Parties engaged in really extensive campaign strategies. And here's where it gets really interesting. The source notes specific details, special arrangements for food, like meat and rice, right near polling stations. Think about that. It wasn't just about winning votes, it was about mobilizing, incentivizing attendance on a massive scale, like a major political rally. Plus, huge campaign expenditures and fierce competition.
Wow. And there's an even more frightening aspect that came to light. Professors and employees, the ones affiliated with the political parties, were actually seen donating part of their salaries as contributions to these campaigns. It really makes you question how independent these elections could possibly be.
Exactly. That signifies that the so-called independent student union elections are anything but. They are deeply, deeply entangled in political interference. Our research reveals a kind of playbook of tactics. Sam, dam, danda, beda, which basically means using conciliation, bribes, punishment, or threats, and division to win. And these tactics were employed for a whole month-long election campaign. This demonstrates a really tragic shift where student politics starts prioritizing strategy and self-interest over academic discourse, over dialogue. The result, educational institutions transformed into battlefields of partisan competition instead of centers for study, research, intellectual discussion. It poses a serious long-term challenge for Nepal's education sector. So yeah, the student elections are a clear symptom of a deeper malaise. But what's the broader impact of these irregularities on Nepal's education sector as a whole? Our source details a grave crisis directly impacting the system.
And if we look at real-world instances, our source mentions these alarming events that have gone viral in the media. Daily clashes, assaults, vandalism, all by political party activists, acting in the name of student organizations, playing out across campuses.
And what's truly ironic, maybe disturbing, as our source points out, is that instead of prosecuting those involved in these, criminal acts, they often seem to receive protection from ruling parties. It really makes you ask serious questions about the rule of law itself and just the basic dignity of educational institutions.
So what does this all mean for the students caught in the middle? I mean, this isn't just about grades anymore, is it? It's like a generation learning that power, not necessarily knowledge, is the true currency. That fundamentally reshapes their worldview, their future aspirations. It must have a negative impact on their academic future.
Definitely. It erodes that fundamental understanding that universities and colleges are places for acquiring knowledge. And post-election, our source highlights another concerning trend. The elected soi-disant representatives, the ones who are supposed to champion student issues. Instead of promoting student rights and quality education, they tend to remain largely silent on those fronts.
And here's the really shocking truth that emerged from our deep dive. These leaders, who apparently spent millions to win elections through political support, they show almost no interest in educational reform, student participation in policymaking, or even basic student welfare programs, the very things they were elected for.
Instead, our source notes they sometimes engage in criminal activities driven by political self-interest. Things like blockades, assaults on teachers or employees, even degrading acts like blackening faces, and just generally disrespectful behavior. These actions directly challenge the original purpose, the justification for soi-disant in the first place. It confirms these bodies, far from being independent, are functioning as dens of political interference.
It's clear this political maneuvering isn't just confined to student unions. Our source indicates that teacher and employee organizations are also deeply caught in this cycle. So this extends to the educators and staff themselves.
Precisely. Our source reveals that these organizations, instead of, say, safeguarding public concern or institutional autonomy, often operate solely under political party directives. Their focus becomes really narrow: self-serving interests, internal power equations, partisan gains.
And the consequence of that is pretty clear. They actively obstruct institutional strengthening, transparency, democratic practices, which leads, naturally, to serious questions about their very purpose and legitimacy among the general public. We even have a recent example, right, from about 3 months ago, Chaitra 20. Teachers were literally on the streets protesting for their rights.
Yes, but our source critiques the government's response. Instead of genuinely addressing the teachers' demands, it seems the relevant state bodies and the government tried to weaken the movement, using things like political calculations, conspiracies, and unhealthy strategies. It's a frustrating cycle, isn't it? Raises questions about accountability.
It truly does. And this creates a huge dilemma for the teachers themselves. Because they're affiliated with these various party organizations, their leaders end up prioritizing party directives, party pressures, over truly independent action for teacher welfare.
And there's historical evidence for this, too. Our source cites numerous instances where these organizations, even while leading protests, have ended up sabotaging movements at critical moments, betraying teachers, obstructing actual education reform. This has, understandably, led to increasing distrust and disappointment among teachers and the public. So what's the path forward? Our source suggests they need to end this division along party lines.
So it's not just about what's happening to them, but also about their own agency in this whole crisis.
Right. A crucial step, as advocated by our source, is for teachers to first establish a common, independent, impartial trade union, completely free from political party influence. This is seen as vital to uphold their professional identity, their dignity, their prestige. Such a union could enable more effective advocacy, and maybe remove the compulsion to frequently strike and leave classrooms. Ultimately, elevating the teaching profession itself is viewed as absolutely vital for the overall improvement of education and, the nation's long-term prosperity.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit now to the universities themselves. While their numbers are rapidly increasing in Nepal, our source notes that the related bodies have, well, failed to manage them effectively. They're not becoming the models of excellence, research, and social responsibility they really ought to be.
And connecting this back to the bigger picture, the core problem just echoes throughout. Political interference and partisan divisions are directly causing the quality of education to decline across these institutions, too.
The reality of appointments is particularly shocking. Key positions like vice chancellors, pro-vice chancellors, deans, directors, campus chiefs, they're primarily appointed based on, it seems, political access, party affiliation, and internal settings, rather than transparency and actual qualifications.
Yeah, it's striking that even when there's a semblance of open competition, the final decisions ultimately align with the political parties' power-sharing agreements. This inevitably means universities lose their academic autonomy, their moral credibility.
And a concerning trend follows from that. Officials appointed through this kind of political bargaining appear almost indifferent to their responsibilities, showing little effectiveness in regular administrative tasks, often just sort of fulfilling their tenure, almost like they're just warming a seat.
Exactly. And this indifference, as our source explains, leads directly to stagnation. Universities fall behind in academic research, curriculum reform, quality education delivery, innovation. When leadership is inefficient, irresponsible, the entire educational system risks becoming weak, directionless. The clear need, then, is for competent, accountable, and politically independent leadership to bring about real qualitative change in higher education.
This all leads us to a truly critical issue. This increasing trend of creating an uncomfortable environment for politically appointed officials in universities whenever the government changes. It creates instability.
Right. Our source gives a really poignant example: the recent resignation of the Tribhuvan University Vice Chancellor, appointed under a previous government, but forced to resign due to an uncomfortable working environment under the current administration. Our source calls this extremely regrettable. And it highlights how this political climate just destabilizes university policy, administrative continuity, academic leadership, severely impacting educational quality.
And it's important to stress, this isn't just Tribhuvan University, right? Our source says almost all universities across the country are victims of this political influence.
Yes, it's widespread. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this leads to a larger national crisis. The denial of opportunities, the mistreatment of qualified, dedicated, honest individuals. The result, a rising rate of brain drain. Our source says this rings an alarm bell for the nation's intellectual capital. It obstructs the long-term development of Nepali higher education. That's truly heartbreaking when you think about it. All that talent, maybe nurtured locally, then having to leave to contribute globally while Nepal struggles.
But here's a contrasting and actually really inspiring fact from our source. Nepal's excellent and honest intellectuals and experts are successfully working as professors, high-ranking officials in leading universities worldwide. They're spreading their knowledge, contributing significantly to global institutions. The talent is there.
So the natural next question, the one our source implicitly poses, is what if? What if Nepal created a truly transparent, supportive environment? One free from this internal political interference and partisan division. Our source suggests the possibility of these experts returning would dramatically increase. And given an impartial, honest environment, they would undoubtedly help make Nepal universities world-class. Their contribution is described as indispensable for making universities true centers of study and research, for building a strong foundation for high-level education.
So to summarize the overarching problem, our source paints a pretty stark picture. Political influence, political pressure, it's rising across various institutions in the country, definitely including education, and it's threatening their very existence. Teachers, professors, employees are under political control, leading to, well, a profound loss of morality and professional dignity.
And this situation is negatively affecting public sentiment. It's raising serious questions about the professional ethics of teachers and professors.
And the core expectation from the public, it's quite clear. They expect teachers and professors to dedicate themselves impartially, independently to their profession, seeing this dedication as their highest morality, their dignity. That's how they earn respect and recognition.
But our source points out a contradiction. Despite these ongoing protests for their rights, there's also a perceived need for improvement in the personal and professional conduct of teachers and professors themselves.
And a discouraging trend continues. These teacher union reorganizations keep going viral on social media, sparking doubts about whether genuine reform is actually possible within those structures.
Yeah, and a growing realization seems to be emerging. Our source suggests a majority of teachers and professors are beginning to understand that these existing unions have never truly worked for educational quality or employee rights. Their primary goal, as our source clarifies, often seems to be just benefiting their political parties and internal factions, leaving the real issues unaddressed.
So the call seems to be for a collective shift. These union leaders, our source indicates, exploit the suffering of ordinary teachers and employees for their own self-interest. Therefore, the time has come, as the source puts it, for teachers and employees to boycott such organizations and advocate for a common trade union, one that will truly protect their rights and justice. And the warning is stark. Failure to oppose these organizations now will just lead to a new form of exploitation.
It's clear that teachers and professors, they possess the capacity to guide and improve every sector of society. The current political control over teachers in Nepal is described as nothing short of a national irony.
And envisioning the ideal, our source suggests that if teachers could produce wise, impartial, honest citizens, then leaders, employees, people in other sectors, they would likely also be more honest and independent, paving the way for a prosperous, progressive nation.
Ultimately, the call is for self-reflection. Teachers and professors must look inward, correct past mistakes, and commit to an impartial, honest teaching profession, truly free from these political party affiliations. Our source states this will contribute to creating effective, capable future generations and the nation's overall improvement, prioritizing honest, dedicated education. It really can bring about positive change for society and the country's future.
We've certainly covered a lot today, really digging into the profound importance of education and this ongoing struggle against political entanglement in Nepal. It's clear this isn't just an academic problem. It's a societal one that touches every corner of the nation.
It really begs the question, doesn't it? If a nation's intellectual capital, the very foundation of its future, is at stake, what collective action, if any, can truly disentangle education from politics and restore its true purpose? We really encourage you, our listener, to consider what role individual and societal commitment plays in safeguarding this absolutely critical sector.